Welcome to Earth.
Let's nuke the bastards.
What the hell are you doing?
We're making a mess.
What goes up must come down.
Gotten worse. Much worse.
I'm back! Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
You heard it up top, folks. We are under attack, and only you can help us this Independence Day. When we're talking ID4 Independence Day, the movies, only on Normies Like Us with your hosts. I'm just going to say Colin the Alien.
I'll say President Mike.
There we go.
Justice Joe, because I'm coming back at him.
Jacob Goldblum.
Nice.
Great.
So no one knows any character names, but that's okay.
No.
It's still a great
No.
movie. Independence Day, right? July 4th just rolled on through, so we figured in between Black Widow or right before that, and let's talk, Independence Day, ID4. We also, for some reason, decided to include Resurgence, which we'll get to. It might have been a mistake, but we have two different movies here based on the same franchise. But yes, the quality scale is has a steep drop off, let's say. But ID4, we're here. Will Smith, Aliens, Jeff Goldblum in both of them. A lot of people in both of them, but we'll get there. What is kind of our history with the Independence Day franchise? Had you seen both? Did you watch both? The prep, Colin, let me kick it off to you.
Well, and I want to know too, did you see this in theaters? This is seminal for our age. I did not see this in theaters. This is a little too adult for me, but it kind of kicked off the yo, this is what a TV movie is. This is what you watch on TNT on Independence Day. So I've seen this a billion times, watched it for this podcast and watched the sequel as well. And I love it as much as I always have. Not my favorite film series. I'll kind of step out of the way of this one and let you guys talk more about it because truly to me it's meh.
Right on. Jacob,
Yeah, for me, I'm not a huge fan of, disaster movies. I'm not a huge fan of Roland Emmerich, Dean Devlin movies, but I think, this one might be the best of all Roland Emmerich's movies. So I'll make an exception for this one. But for me, I did watch it just earlier today, and I was going to watch the second one. Didn't get to it because I thought it was going to be on Hulu. You have to pay for a premium pan or something. So I was like, no, I'm not going to rent that. But I checked out some trailers and stuff on YouTube. I think I got the gist of it. And, I didn't see this movie in theaters, but I have seen it, several times before. It's sort of an annual tradition, watch it around July 4th. And it's not bad. I'm kind of in the same boat as Colin. It's a solid meh for me.
Okay, Joe, how about you?
I did see this one in theaters. This was a big event for the family. I remember we saw it in Jersey on a theater that's right on the river, so you can basically see the New York skyline when you get out of the movie. Loved it when I was a kid. I've watched it 5 or 6 times over the last 3 or 4 days, the same way I do every year in between drinks in pieces because it's on the TV all the time. And I did watch the second one again for the second time with the same regret from the first time that I saw it. But I guess I'm kind of on team meh as well. But what a background movie, huh? What a movie to not know that is on.
What a movie.
Exactly.
Well, I think especially with the first one, it's definitely a movie you never mind when it happens to find itself on your TV, right? You just kind of let it roll.
I was going to say.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I don't remember seeing this in theaters, but I did want to say that this came out in '96. Also came out this year, Mission Impossible, and that was one of my first movie theater memories of going to see Mission Impossible with my family. So that was the same year. So I don't remember seeing this one in theaters though.
Gotcha.
Just wanted to throw that out there.
So we had one of the we still have one of the last operating drive-ins near my hometown in Ohio, and this feels like it would have been a double feature, like Mission Impossible X Independence Day, but I believe
Sure.
that's a false memory. My first time seeing this does feel like a VHS just on someone's TV or on TNT and just watching. I've seen it multiple times that way, but I haven't seen the original probably in over 10 years. So I have some interesting takeaways from rewatching it, and short answer is I really enjoyed it. And then I watched Resurrection, Insurrection, Resurgence. Who cares, right? And yeah, if you've seen the first one, you've basically seen this one. It's just that, but bad.
Yeah, none of us saw it in theaters. The second one, Joe, you
No.
didn't go to. No, yeah.
No interest.
Did not. Watched it like 6 or 7 months after it came out on whatever streaming service in the afternoon, not paying attention. Same way I just watched it a few minutes ago. I didn't even finish the second time, I'll be honest. I had like
Sure,
20 minutes
I
left,
don't
and I was
blame
like,
you.
we got to record this thing soon. I'm done.
Yeah, I almost didn't as well, and I had to pay for it. It wasn't on any of the services that I'm already subscribed to, so they directly profited from me, and I'm upset about it.
Yeah, I didn't want to rent it. I had 2 hours before recording, and I was like, I could do something else, or I could rent this movie for $4 and then watch it. And I was
Right.
like,
Well,
You
as
know.
you know, on this podcast, listeners, we've covered, every Transformers movie, and I would watch any of those over Resurgence. But
Well, Mike,
Yeah.
I would just say the interesting thing to normies, if you check
Oh, yeah.
out our other episodes, 1998, we talked a lot about Roland Emmerich's Godzilla, a movie that comes out 2 years after this, and we have done an episode on Wild Wild West and talked a lot about what Will Smith sort of means to our generation of kids growing up. So this is in our wheelhouse to talk.
Yeah, and even doing the kind of summer of the summer blockbusters a while back, this ties in directly to that lineage of being the original anyway, one of the first major templates for what the summer blockbuster should be. This ensemble cast, and I think starting there with the classic, the always great background and fairly enjoyable Independence Day ID4. Let's jump into it right now on Normies Like Us.
Son of a bitch.
Ah! That's right! That's right! Get up! Get up! That's what you get! Look at you! Ship all banged up! Who's the man? Huh? Who's the man? Wait till I get another plane! I'm lining all your friends up right beside you! Where you at, huh? Huh? Where you at? Welcome to Earth.
That's what I call a close encounter.
You know, this was supposed to be my weekend off. But no. You got me out here dragging your heavy ass through the burning desert with your dreadlocks sticking out the back of my parachute. You gotta come down here with an attitude, acting all big and bad. And what the hell is that smell? I could have been at a barbecue!
We're back. Let's get into it. So I want to dive in with a little history, before we get dropped off and get our butt kicked by some space aliens. Let's talk a little bit about Roland L. Emmerich and Dean Devlin, as Jacob brought up. A producer duo. Dean Devlin wrote the movies. Roland Emmerich would direct them. Universal Soldier was kind of their first big breakout. Stargate, huge. Kind of get some carte blanche to do an old school disaster movie, something akin to like an alien invasion film. And he comes up with ID4, and we're all for the better for it. I don't know. Not slanderous to say, Jacob was saying Roland Emmerich in general not liking him. A guy who is paid for a lot of underage boy parties, like another director, BS. And I think I'm allowed to say that without litigation. So not my favorite dude in the world.
Well, when it comes
good
to his
to know.
movies, I think, Independence Day, like I said, it's really his best one, or at least one of his best ones. And he kind of, made this movie and then spent, the rest of his career trying to top it, but, with less, less good results every time. You know, Day After
2012.
Tomorrow, 2012, even the sequel to this movie. Obviously, none of them can
Yeah.
match the spectacle of seeing this like in the 90s. You know, the special effects were groundbreaking for the time. So, yeah, I think it's his best movie.
I'm so jealous then that Joe got to see this in fucking theaters too, because at home, huge, like we said, a huge blockbuster rental, a huge TV movie. But Joe, fucking sitting at that theater and just going like, "Oh, Will Smith is my dad now. He is my new action hero." Must have been exhilarating.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely remember it being like one of the biggest ones of the year. It's just you don't have anything like that anymore. Like they really haven't had just a straight up "here are the aliens, they're coming" movie, and I don't know, it really stands the test of time for me with that. Like we haven't had that since the '90s, and then before Independence Day, it was like really since like the '70s and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I
Right.
really appreciated on this viewing too, is it did feel like in the 90s that Roland Emmerich's like, what if we just did a 1950s, like it came from outer space plot, but with all the budget, right? And all like they get these new stars and the special effects, like some of the practical effects, you know, with like exploding the miniatures of the White House, like that's an iconic shot. We've seen it like 100 times now in other movies, but at the time, like that was super awesome, and it still holds up. The fact that they're using miniatures, they're building physical spaceships, physical aliens, which we don't get in the sequel.
Hell
But
yeah.
right now, I just want to heap love on the original because I really think it deserves it, and it held up great. I was watching on my phone at certain points, you know, hopping around from the TV, and it's like, I never saw it in theaters. Is the point I'm making? Even on the small screen,
Yeah.
like it's still just super enjoyable. It's a great film.
Those visuals,
Well-
Mike, computers. You said tons of miniatures, but these things called computers get
Oh,
introduced
yeah.
for this movie. We get these computer special effects. Did you think it held up? I thought, you see these fighter pilots flying around the alien spaceship. I'm like, this looks like a modern blockbuster to me.
Yeah, I mean, some of it, like some of the compositing shots look a little so-so, like when they're doing blue screen or something, but even the CG, like if they're flying inside the alien spaceship, like some of those compositing shots look just as good as like original Blade Runner shots, and people still say like that's the end all
Totally.
be all of classic practical effects. So yeah, I think it held up for the most part really well.
Right. Yeah, and this is coming in the 90s, a couple years after Jurassic Park. Obviously Will Smith is at the beginning of his big run in the 90s where he was a huge star.
I think he did Bad Boys right before this, but this
right.
is really
Bad Boys right before this,
springboarding.
and then Men in Black the year after this.
Yeah.
Just got a huge star. So did a lot of alien movies, I guess, but and then Wild West a couple years later, everyone's favorite.
Go listen. Thank you,
But
Joe.
what I like about this
Please.
movie is it's even though Will Smith is like the biggest star, it's really truly an ensemble piece, and there's all these different characters that you can root for. You got your President Bill Pullman, you got Jeff Goldblum, and it really feels like an ensemble. And the way they introduce the aliens in the beginning, it's kind of like a slow reveal where we get introduced to all these different characters, and it's kind of unfolding in real time of them like trying to figure out what to do. And I just like that it doesn't rush into things, and it kind of just takes a time setting up the world and everything.
Yeah, I think that's a big strength of it is its pacing and setting up the characters. Generally, maybe the characters aren't the most fully realized, right? Because there's a lot that you need to introduce, but the way they function in the plot, they all generally have something to do, and I do appreciate how they establish the threat of the aliens. Like, they are a credible, serious threat, and I really think that works in the film's favor.
Well, let me say this, Mike, too. Global movie. This is the first time we're thinking about the word global movie. This is a movie that's going to be opening internationally. People in other countries are going to be seeing this. When you're saying these thin characters, again, I'm with Jacob. I love the ensemble. There are the weaknesses of, what does Jeff Goldblum do? He's a wacky scientist. What is the
Who
dad?
couldn't
He's just a
commit.
very Jewish dad. Who is our black hero? He's a single black dad who's married to a stripper. And you're like, ooh, those almost seem like stereotypes. And they're like, no. It's just generalities that we're just going to move past.
Yeah, who's Bill
and I think
Pullman?
it works very well.
Spineless president. Yeah, that's it.
Well, a weird, grumbly, deep voice president. But how satisfying is it as a Clockwork movie where, you know, you get all those disparate elements, and eventually when they come together at Area 51, the ship crashes, Will's there, he meets up with the RV, we know the president's going there too. You as an audience, you're like, this is just fucking clockwork. This is beautiful. We're cooking now, baby.
They throw out all these plot threads and then they just reel them in, and they all pull together at Area 51, and like it's really well balanced, I think, for the number of characters. Yeah, and we haven't mentioned Randy Quaid's name, but I just want to throw him in the mix.
Randy Quaid, the drunken pilot that no one believes that he was abducted by aliens 10 years prior.
It molested me.
They did sexual things to him, possibly. I like Jeff Goldblum in this movie because he's just basically Jeff Goldblum. And like they saw Jurassic Park a couple years ago, and they're like, let's just get him to be like play the same character, basically like a scientist, but like still a cool scientist that like girls are into, you know. But
right.
Yeah.
It's I like how each character kind of has one thing, like Colin said, they're simple, but then it kind of pays off at the end, you know? Like Jeff Goldblum and his ex-wife. He couldn't ever, you know, commit himself to something greater, right? You know, and he finally commits himself to the greatest thing he can. And Will Smith finally is like, you know what? I want to be with you and be the daddy of your kid. And the marriage thing. Yeah.
So on the nose, the Jeff Goldblum's still wearing the ring of his ex, and his ex happens to be the aide to the president. And then when everybody's getting married at the end, he's still got the ring on. They hold their hands too. When Will Smith is getting married, you know, the president's there with his wife too. It's like I said, it's a Clockwork movie where there's just these beautiful payoff moments.
Yeah, and it's really incredible how all that does pay off. And yeah, it's like, as an ensemble and global movie, yeah, it sets the template for what I think blockbusters will do from here on. In a good way.
Yeah. Again, not my favorite movie. You know, let's just say, what are our favorite parts though? Do you guys have a favorite character, a favorite moment, or whatever? Obviously, I'm all about the Will Smith storyline, the Harry Connick Jr. stuff, the fat lady won't sing, and when they're smoking those cigars at the end of the movie, even though Harry Connick's dead, we get the payoff with Jeff Goldblum. Like, I got tears in my eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And well, you know, Harry Connick Jr. part in this movie was originally going to be played by Matthew Perry. Fun fact there.
Makes maybe a little more sense. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, and I liked you know, Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum in the alien ship. They have a fun dynamic when they get, you know, kind of trapped in the mothership for a while, and so that's really fun. And then of course we have, you know, Bill Pullman, the president, who also is a former fighter pilot, I guess. So he
Desert
joins
Storm.
the troops at the end.
Yep.
Yeah. Everyone's a pilot in this movie, but yeah, you know, it's fun.
Joe, do you have a favorite standout moment for this one?
Yeah, I mean, you know, everyone's talking about like the big heroes and like the obvious action moments. What about Brent Spiner, who just like plays the kooky Area 51 I've known all along alien scientist, who then gets got in like a really like great tribute to aliens. That's up there for me, man. I remember being young and watching that movie in theaters and being like, "Oh, this has got aliens and it's spooky. I'm here for it."
Right. But then, you know, we learn that he doesn't just die, he actually does. He's in a coma because he comes back in the sequel 20 years later.
Yeah, for 20 years. Okay, so I want to jump a little bit ahead then, so we could just like, I'll follow up my thread with that character. Favorite part in the first one, the craziest part of the second one, because he's just there and like, you know, he gets woken up from his coma and he's the audience. He's just like, wait, what? It's 20 years after the first movie? Did it do well at the box office? He's like asking like those types of questions. And then like the plot catches up to him and all of a sudden he's back to being the original character, where he's like, see, every computer, even your phone or your watch, has a signal to it. And it's like, bruh, you were asleep for the last 20 years, and now you're immediately like, your watch is a computer too, and I know that, even though like it used to just be like a calculator at
You don't know what
most.
Apple
Phones were
Watch is.
rotary phones to you.
Someone was excited to have a car phone in the Independence Day era. You know?
'Cause you know what
Yeah.
smartphones are. Yeah.
Right, but that scene in the original, well, the character, kind of how he's so goofy, right, and weird. They don't let us out much. There's that whole joke. The way that plays with like the spooky alien die no peace, right? Like that works so well. It is extra spooky because he's such a goofball that when he's like up against the glass, you're like, holy shit. And that scene reminds me of
love that
Spider-Man
moment.
2 a lot too. But yeah, I love that scene.
Sure.
Scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Yeah.
Is this
I don't know.
glass
Brent Spiner,
bulletproof?
he's playing this like he's almost got his data makeup on. He is so big in this goddamn movie, but it is to the strength of it, Joe.
I know there is much we can learn from each other if we can negotiate a truce. We can find a way to coexist. Can there be a peace between us? No peace. What is it you want us to do? Is that glass bulletproof?
No, sir.
It's the first time they turned his emotion chip back on. He's just like so animated.
It is
Ah, the
funny
aliens.
that Will Smith punches that alien once and then just assumes that he's dead, and then they drag him back, to Area 51, and no one kind of, they just all assume that he's dead, and then obviously he surprises them. And
Well, he got punched by that dude,
A single
Yeah.
Will Smith punch will put an
punched.
alien that's
Yeah.
inside of another alien husk into a
Yes.
coma for like
Right.
an hour.
Weird little,
Make
what
him
we kind of
sleepy.
know are insect aliens. But Mike, tell me your favorite moment, but also do you like how these aliens look?
Well, my favorite moment is probably the dog jumping away from an explosion.
That CGI background, that dog looks so happy.
Yeah, that's the dog doesn't
I
know the
love
world's
it.
ending. He just happy to be home with
No
mama.
way.
Right.
yeah, everyone's calling me. This is awesome.
Yeah, you're getting
Best
attention.
day of my life.
My favorite moment is definitely, I'm back. Hey boys, I'm back. Randy Quaid getting the, payback's a bitch on the
I'm
aliens.
back.
Yeah, the drunken crop dusting pilot no one believed, and I like to think it's the same character from Christmas Vacation. That there's an RV, and he just ended up in the desert. Yeah, cousin Eddie's.
Sure.
Yeah, natural end, saving the world. But I love that, and then obviously the speech. The speech that Bill Pullman gives, one of the greatest movie speeches of all time.
Does it work? Does it work, guys? Mike, it is your favorite moment of this movie. It is a gravelly guy going, "We will not go gently into that night." And it's been so repurposed. It's used in beer ads. Literally, the day this podcast is coming, they're dropping commercials like that. It still hits you.
Yeah, I think it's just iconic because it's that first like world movie. It feels like the first world movie or a rehash of those 50s like global scale threat, and got to make the big speech. And yeah, it just something hits. We cried out in one voice. We will not go quietly into the night. We're fighting for our right to live, right? And it's
right.
it works for kind of the type of movie this is. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It is funny that
it's a top 90s moment, like across the board.
Great way
Movies,
to put
TV,
it.
all of it. Like it's got to be way up there.
it's not a game of inches kind of speech, but it's a damn good movie speech,
Yeah. And then he gets in the plane, and then he goes up there with the boys, and clears the way for Randy Quaid to go through.
Just the real quick thing I want to say, just to throw to my boy Jacob here. to talk about a modern film, the Tomorrow War just came out. I promise I won't clog up too much of this conversation here, but I'm wearing my Doughboys shirt, my Statue Doe Liberty shirt for America and for my boy Mitch in this movie. Now, Jacob, so many comparisons to the Tomorrow War have been, it's like a modern day Independence Day. It's like a throwback 90s action film. And you're kind of like, if you're me, you're like, what does that word mean exactly? Or what's that vibe that they're trying to go for? And so much so that the people who made it, I've heard Chris Pratt say exactly, it's like Independence Day. Are you kidding? It's like this throwback action 90s thing. And it was in that moment where you get those meth head pilots in this movie because, so many of the government have been blown up and shut down that you get Randy Quaid, you get these other, the citizen pilots who we need anyone who can fly. That it really did remind me of what the Tomorrow War's promise is of the regular guys in the military who are going to protect us. And it is an interesting energy to try to capture.
Yeah, I mean, Tomorrow War, not a great movie. I watched it the other night, but it is
as good as Independence Day. Would you say?
I think it's very beholden to prior movies. So it's got Independence Day in there. It's got Aliens. It's got Edge of Tomorrow. With Tom Cruise. So it's like a bunch of different past movies combined into one. So in that way, I do see the Independence Day influences, and it just shows how much this movie has influenced like the modern blockbuster. But and another thing that's interesting is the aliens in Tomorrow War are very similar to the aliens that were in
weird
this movie,
tentacle things.
Yeah, and it's been kind of a stereotypical alien design over the years where they haven't changed that much. But yeah, it's interesting.
Here's the thing I really love about it that hasn't been captured since, because like you're talking about the Tomorrow War, you're talking about Edge of Tomorrow, and these other modern blockbusters that all have like a twist to the alien invasion. Like Alien Invasion isn't spooky enough. You know what I mean? Like I would say this and Signs are kind of the only two modern movies where it's just like, yep, aliens. Not aliens from tomorrow. It's not like kaiju from the ground that are coming from a different dimension.
Right.
It's just straight up like, they want to come here and enslave the human race.
Well,
like,
and because
just make more movies like that, I guess. Like is that the key to success?
Yeah, it's because everything's been done so many times now in so many different ways that it's like, everyone's trying to find the original spin on the alien invasion or something like that, where it's like, you can just do a straight alien invasion. Like, it doesn't need to be this, Tomorrow War's got all this like crazy, like, oh, they're 30 years in the future and all these rules for time travel and stuff that just makes the movie, it just overcomplicates it to the point where if you think about anything for more than 30 seconds, the central premise completely breaks down because it doesn't really make any sense. Whereas this movie, the premise is very simple. Aliens are going to destroy the world. We have to stop them. That's like literally all there is to it, right?
You can't want to be the highbrow and do the lowbrow thing, if it is a 90s action throwback. And Joe, I never thought about what you just said. I'm going to call it the Mars needs mom syndrome, because you're so right. There is this idea of like, the twist was they actually came down there to get the firstborns, and you're like, like,
It's a cookbook.
Yeah, it's like, Independence Day is, no peace, the Ravagers. I'll give the strength of the second movie, not that we have to go over to it yet, but the whole vision that the president sees in the first one of they're a race that goes from planet to planet, just feeding and doing that stuff, to actually get the visualization of that in the second one, that's pretty cool. That's fine motivation for me. That's all I need.
Yeah.
I mean, it also kind of like harkens back to like kind of the trail of cinema, right? Like in the 1950s, aliens were spooky enough. Like that was enough for us. Like the idea of like men from Mars coming down in their little ships. Right. Then we kind of got into stuff like creature features and the Blob and stuff like that, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and adding kind of like that horror element to it. And this was like, no, let's just go all the way back to the old days. So maybe in like another 10 years, we'll get a new Independence Day that is just.
Well,
hey,
can I give you the one?
aliens.
Can I ask your opinion on it, Joe? Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds. I think that's the 2000s attempt to be like, hey, we're basically Independence Day.
Well, yeah, because Independence Day
That's
is
fair.
basically, War of the Worlds. Like, there was the Orson Welles
Right,
radio
yeah.
broadcast, and even the twist of like, oh, they died from like human diseases. That's kind of similar to Independence Day, where they killed them with like a computer
Giving a
virus.
It's
computer
a virus.
cold, Jake.
It's still a virus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's honestly, wow. Yeah, that's very direct.
It's same thing with signs. Water hurts them. Like it's
Yeah.
always that kind of like. Turns out it was our human
Yeah.
planet all
Man's
along.
hubris.
Well, because Jeff Goldblum legitimately like sneezes, you got to catch a cold, and then it's like, oh my God, Dad, getting
disease?
sick. So it's like it literally is just like a
Cold.
human disease.
Let's
Yeah.
see, like a cold like a computer. Yes, a cold like a virus. Yes, okay. So that is, to me, the worst moment of the movie.
This
Well,
is
there's
the thing, though.
also Jeff
Well,
Goldblum's dad was also like, Area 51, and they're like, well, actually, yeah, let's go there. So Jeff Goldblum's dad
It
makes a
does
lot of the
exist.
big decisions in this movie for some reason.
His dad is very pivotal. Like when everyone's arguing on the plane, says, "No one stop
Prophetic.
arguing." Right? It's like, okay, we're gonna stop arguing and listen to this guy. But to Colin's point that the virus is the dumbest thing, it's also what makes it the '90s throwback. Even though it wasn't a throwback at the time, because that's something that all '90s movies need. To that feeling of they're from the
The
period.
goober.
Yeah, and it's like
Yeah.
we didn't have cell phones or like the proper internet. We sort of had computers. So like
No.
the fact that
Mike,
it's
we
like
thought we could hook our Apple II up to a strange, alien device.
right, and the fact that it's
Plug
like
it in.
yeah, just an F-15 will do. Like it's not a space fighter jet. It's just like regular missile, sidewinder, like just basic ass '90s military tech is like enough here. That
Amazing.
makes it very charming. And like Joe was saying, it's a throwback to the '50s, which a lot of that was like allegories for like the Red Scare. What if this other came, took away your freedom or your culture, your identity, body snatchers? It's all kind of coming from that. But doing that in a way where the visuals, it's never been able to be this realistic on the big screen, really captured everybody's imagination. That's why it is important. Maybe not the greatest movie. It's cheesy. Again, we're going to put a virus in a... we don't know if they're using Linux or Apple or if it's compatible with our zeros and ones. It could be bioorganic
That's
quantum
right.
computing. Who knows? But Jeff Goldblum figured it out. But it has a charm because of some of those missteps, or some of those shortcomings. The rough edges
I
make
do
it
have a
better.
question about the movie.
Mm.
Why ID4? Can anyone? Am I
Nope.
really dumb? Because that's always gone completely over my head. Like it's all over all the marketing, the toys, the posters, everything. ID4. The
I
sequel
think
was
it's
even
our
called
DVD
ID4 ever.
was ID4.
Before. So like.
I think because it's July 4th,
So just independence
Okay.
In separate dependence.
Independence
for yeah.
Fourth
Is
of July.
what we just are supposed to understand is what that is.
Or the
No,
4th
it's
could be like an
Independence
O.
Day, the 4th
Yeah.
of July.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And then of
That's what
July
I'm
is in parentheses and then deleted, and then implied, ID 4th of July, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
No,
terrible.
I don't know why.
Well, they
Yeah.
called it,
It looked cool, but
yeah, and
This
over
speech
my head.
starts. It's apt that it's July 4th. Like he calls it out. It's very
Right.
interesting.
well, he says
Well,
it
that's
won't
what's
be
funny.
just an American holiday. It'll be a global
that's right.
holiday.
That's why it's
Everyone's-
funny because it's the whole world's going to be blown up. We mainly focus on America, and then we cut away every once in a while. We see the British guys like, oh, the Americans are putting a plan together. Oh, about bloody time.
thank
Like we've just
God.
been sitting here waiting for America to figure it out.
Just to the title point, and to Joe's point, to call something Independence Day, it would be like if there was a movie called Christmas that, was about a zombie invasion where a guy gives a speech at the end. If you celebrate Kwanzaa, if you celebrate Hanukkah, we'll all be celebrating Christmas by the end because
Now
of
it's
what occurred
Christmas.
today. Christmas!
It is, yeah, that 90s sort of
it is
American
like
bravado.
this movie. It has like such Avenger vibes too, because like the first 45 minutes of the movie is essentially little solo movies for all the characters right before they meet.
Totally.
And then they meet in Area 51, and there's the Avengers, and then the president gives that speech where he says, "Americans assemble," and like we all go up and blow up the aliens.
No,
It's like a
there
great
is-
feel good movie.
Joe, there's an interrogation in a glass case between Loki and the alien, you know, where they literally go like, "What's your plan? I've brought you all together for this. Goodbye, Avengers." And you're like, "Okay."
Yeah.
True. They do reach out. It's very much America saves the world, but they do like, we're going to work with all these global militaries, and all they do is they show like one shot of each group being like, get the planes together, Russia, get the planes together, Japan.
Now, and
Right.
can I
They're
do
never
a-
in the
Give me
battle.
Instructions from the brave Americans who are going to save us all.
Yeah.
And that's the whole reason these films, this genre is gone, right? The global market has become king. We make films for everybody now. So ID
and
for Resurgence, you know, a lot of Chinese cast, fantastic, a lot more diversity than the first film, but you don't get the American exemplarism that is sort of the embodiment of that genre, where it's like, shut up, nerd. I, shoot from the hip and I go with my
Right.
gut, and it turned out touchdown, America, football. We did
Well,
it.
Colin, even more than that, like now it's like if you don't like pander to like China, your money will make your movie will make more money in China than it will make domestically in
Right.
America. So you better have the Chinese market stuff in there, or else your movie's not going to make enough money.
Boardroom scenes where it was, acts of rebellion, where you used to have the console of people who would go, this is what we need to do. No, you're a madman. I'm going off my gut. Where we win have now been replaced in this world, Jacob, of call the other foreign leaders. Are we all in agreement? Yes, we're all in agreement because we've done the right thing. And
Right.
it's interesting that there's the Star Trek connection here, that Brent Spiner's in this, because it is a very utopian look, even though we all know it's lies. It's just, it's absolute propaganda.
Well, and to bring up the Tomorrow War again, that's another global, impact where we mainly focus on the Americans, but we do get that thing where it's like, oh, all global leaders have come together to institute a mandatory draft, and they just did that in like, a day, and everyone agreed on it. There's no, arguing, but we're only going to show you the Americans, but you get the idea.
And then that's like Colin's saying, that culture of Hollywood and what the marketing trends are shifts by the time we get to Resurgence, to where you do see a lot more with this movie. Again, it's like a lot of lip service, like, all right, Japan's helping, Britain's helping, Russians helping, but there's never a line like, Japan's taking down the shield, strike. It's all like, we did it all.
J Squadron.
There's somewhere else.
The ships now that we figured it out.
Yeah. They were the first waves, the first 2-3 waves before we figured out what to do. But in the later, it's different. But go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. Are we jumping to the second one? Because I do have like.
Let's do it.
I think it's time.
We can't be consumed by our petty differences anymore. We will be united in our common interest. Perhaps it's fate that today is the 4th of July, and you will once again be fighting for our freedom. Not from tyranny, oppression, or persecution, but from annihilation. We're fighting for our right to live, to exist. And should we win the day, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Did we do it?
We did it. And as it's called ID4 in the fan community, this one is known as IDR. All right, so, and I'm not making that up. Those are the shorthands. ID4
I think
and
you're gonna
IDR.
say something mean. That's not mean. That's fine.
No, it's just stupid. There shouldn't be a fan community for this movie, is what I'm saying.
There's a fan.
Shame on you.
IDR. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Joe, please kick us off.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about the follow-up to Independence Day. Independence Day, classic, instant. Everybody loves it. It's on TNT 5 days a week during the week of the 4th of July. Everyone's seen it 9 million times. Takes 20 years to come back to the movie theaters.
Yo,
There were a
yeah,
couple
I think
different
that's-
points where there were sequels.
It's so important to point out. I just want to say, since we were all pretty much the same age, lunchroom conversations from, I don't know, from me being 10 to me graduating high school were, you think they'll ever make another Independence Day? Like, it was such a popular movie.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of thought, and there were like 4 or 5 different times it almost happened over those 2 decades. But it takes until 2016 to actually get it. IDR, as the fan community calls it. I don't know. I'll give it the big bump of I love alternate history movies, and that's what this is. Like, the Star Trek connection goes a little bit further when you think about this is a universe where 20 years ago we kicked them aliens' asses, and now we got their technology and we're mixing it in with ours. So I do like that idea. I'm on board with that, and then it just quickly falls apart.
Yeah, and feels in a lot of ways, besides the setting and the world building being 20 years ahead with the alien technology, many of the story beats are kind of repeated from the first movie, to where we even get the president in the jet again. Bill Pullman in a jet, the ex-president. But yeah, so I do like that world building too, Joe. Where it's like, yeah, we have new technology, and like, yeah, I'm okay with that. But after that, things go downhill.
Yeah. I'll do you one even better. The time in between that we don't know about. Will Smith gets killed off in like the most unceremonial way. So there's a throwaway line, and there's more if you read about it with like the extra materials that came out around the time the movie was coming out in 2016. Will Smith's character dies in a test crash trying to fly one of the first jets that are using this fusion engine that they're talking about the entire movie.
He always wanted to go to space.
He dies in a test crash because he wouldn't come back.
But then he flew the first alien plane originally without...
He always wanted to go to space, Jacob. He was rejected by NASA because he's got a stripper girlfriend.
He tripped on his shoelaces. It really is like, they were like, Will Smith, no, I'm not coming back for the 4th. I'm not coming back. Sorry, man. It ain't happening. I'm Will Smith now. I'm way too big. And they were like, fine, we're going to tell everyone like you pooped your pants to death. That's how you do it.
And Joe, you know how much Will Smith didn't want to do this movie is that he did Suicide Squad instead. So that's how much he...
Wow, he literally wanted suicide.
What a year 2016 was, where we were just seeing bad movies in theaters.
That's why no one remembers this maybe, because there was so much other weird bad stuff that it just got overshadowed and swept away in the tide.
Just like rode along with all the garbage.
Yep. Because I forgot this came out. I didn't forget that it existed, but I forgot like when 2016.
Yeah. It really kind of came and went without.
But not having Will was, for a lot of people our age, like, oh, he's not in that movie? Why would I go see that movie? And the fact that they were trying to nostalgia bait, as all these, rebrandings do, and you're not going to include what we're going to show up for. It's like that new Sex and the City spinoff where they don't have, like, Miranda or whatever in it that's coming out, where it's like, oh, what do you expect?
Samantha, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
For our Sex and the City episode coming up, Jake, it's very important for you correct me.
There's a big overlap of Independence Day fans and Sex and the City fans listening to this, right?
But Colin, check this out. So you had, obviously Jurassic Park a few years earlier, 1993, broke all the box office records. Then Independence Day took those records from Jurassic Park, which then Jurassic Park 2 took them back.
Oh, amazing. I didn't know that.
Jeff Goldblum, the only connection between them all.
That's right, but
box office gold.
Compare the soft reboot of Jurassic World series and how successful that is. Compare that to the sequel for Independence Day, and just shows you what they're missing, I guess.
But that is perfect, Jacob. That's a perfect example, because that is brand revigoration over
20 years later.
Necessarily showing us. You don't have Dr. Alan Grant in Jurassic World. It is a whole new set of characters and circumstances.
Right, and you have
him now.
Yeah.
Right. And so
you're right. If we'd gotten to the third ID, whatever it is movie, now we'd be getting the good stuff.
Yeah, but it's just like, they kind of made a new story while keeping the same beats, but this movie, they try to do the same thing, but they have, Liam Hemsworth instead of Chris Pratt. And, they bring Jeff Goldblum back, but bring some of the minor characters back. But it's just missing that, that spark, I guess.
I think the trouble too is you're trying to bring back as many fan favorite, let's say, characters from the previous movie. So you're getting Jeff Goldblum and Brent Spiner, even though he's dead, and you're getting his dad back, and you're keeping them established while also trying to bring in this young cast and establishing them, plus our international cast, plus like all these plot threads that are tied into all of those characters, which the original already just very so delicately on the edge of a knife balanced, right? And we're adding more to that, and they don't have nearly the execution that they did the first time.
No.
And I know
Not
there's
my
like
fucking tempo.
And there's a big part of this movie, right, that's just Jeff Goldblum's dad in a school bus with like a bunch of kids, and yeah.
Well, it's all right. So here's how I was looking at it. Like the original is super over the top, but it has like this heart, this kind of patriotism. It's a July 4th movie, America, right? It's got this beating heart, and then resurgence, regurgitation. It's called resurgence, right? I keep wanting to call it insurrection, resurrection.
I think it is regurgitation.
Yeah, but it feels like what an AI would create in the future. Like once AIs are making movies, what is a threat humans perceive? School bus of children. Like, okay, what's a character from previous movie available?
It feels like something you would read in Ready Player One, where you're like, oh, this character's ridiculous. He's going to see something called Independence Day Resurgence. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, like a Jaws, 19. This time it's really, really personal type of vibe, right?
I mean, there's even a point where there's a hospital, and then of course there's like one pregnant woman in the hospital who has to like get on the helicopter. That is just such like, oh shit, there's the dog moment in the first one where everyone's rooting for the dog. We need to add something to this scene. Let's get a pregnant woman in here, even though the drama is already this one person trying to escape a helicopter. It's just like never enough.
Well, who sacrifices herself to get the pregnant woman on the helicopter is Vivica Fox's character. So
yeah,
she dies.
She dies.
So we have Will Smith's adopted son
of screen time.
is in this, right? But he's like not even a main character.
Not a stripper anymore, Jacob. She's a doctor. She talks about how much she misses Will Smith, and you just, again, you're looking around going like, who is this for?
Saving up to pay for doctor school the whole time in the first.
So yeah, that's right. They basically kill off the entire Smith family tree aside from the son in this movie, either with lines of dialogue. It's like you should not be forgiven for that. First of all, like how could you? And then even there was the son character, the other, I don't know his name, but like he's so in the background. Like at the end, everyone's reuniting and like giving hugs, and then he's just there by himself. Like,
how is he not the lead?
Happy for you guys.
William Hemsworth role.
Yeah, swap those guys. You don't make Harry Connick Jr.'s son the lead. If you're planning this movie out. Not that he is, but still.
Right. You know what I would have done in this is I would have had the president, Bill Pullman, sacrifice himself at the end in the Randy Quaid role.
He did.
He did too?
You didn't watch it. He literally did.
I didn't see the end.
It's the worst.
How it goes.
He literally does. Yeah.
If we're doing what should have would have
so you're just as smart as the writers. Yes. Good job.
If we're doing woulda shoulda couldas, there's only one thing we can all agree on. It should not have been a Roland Emmerich movie. This should have been a Jaden Smith movie. Jaden Smith comes back, stars in it, directs it, and writes it. And he gets to call it whatever he wants. He gets to just swag it out. Everything would be visually crazy.
Well, that's another thing I was reading about, Will Smith not wanting to come back, and Roland Emmerich was like, well, he did this movie After Earth with his son that's like a sci-fi father-son movie, so he didn't want to do another sci-fi so soon after that, apparently.
Oh, boo-hoo.
Probably read the script, really, and stay away from this.
But I mean, he did some bad scripts around this time, Suicide Squad, right? So it's like,
Ooh, yeah.
This was the low point for our Willie Fresh.
Truly.
Yeah, he's been in a low point the last few years, it seems, but he's still a movie star, so I'm sure he's
never should have done that YouTube rewind. That was the end.
That was the downhill.
Sure.
I mean, tried to get more into social media and stuff.
truly, if you're woulda, coulda, shoulda-ing these, Independence Day should have been a franchise that had a new movie every 2 years.
Absolutely.
And they all came out on the 4th of July and were essentially the same movie. And it would be like the Halloween franchise or the Friday the 13th franchise, but just, humans
that
killing
do-
aliens every couple years when they show up again.
I don't know if that would do well enough at the box office. I mean, if you made them on the cheap, like the Purge movies or something, then you.
Well,
then
even-
So think
there's
about it. You have 1996, 1998, 2002. Really, like 9/11 would have killed the franchise. But if you put
Yes.
a sequel in before 9/11, after this, then like I think you could have had 3 or 4 movies in this franchise and milked it through the early 2000s. But waiting
Here's
20
the other
years,
world.
it's just too much, man. No one.
No.
Bigger explosions aren't enough anymore.
Yeah.
No, and we got to say, we talked a lot about how Roland Emmerich tried to one-up himself with these strange disaster movies. But the other big part of his career during this time is he is just cashing checks from signing off the Stargate rights to television. We could have lived in a world where there was the Independence Day TV show shot in Canada for $10, 5 seasons of it.
Right. Well, the thing with Stargate SG-1 went on for like a bunch of
Stargate
seasons.
Atlantis.
They expanded the lore of Stargate in an interesting way that I don't think that Independence Day could really fulfill the same kind of niche. But
Sustain. Yeah.
yeah,
What do you mean the Harvesters couldn't have other species around? We didn't
The
even know they were called the
Queens.
Harvesters until 20 years later.
right.
Yeah, or that they
right.
were a hive mind. Yeah, that's a new development.
Yes. We meet a third, Jacob, I don't know if you picked this up from the supplementary material that you were watching, but we meet a third type of alien species
Yeah,
in
the
this
white
that is
orb
the
thing.
AI
Yeah.
android. Just a it's like if, BB-8 gets launched into space and landed on our planet was like, are you going to help us fight Darth Vader? And everybody here on this planet would be like, what the fuck is this thing? Get out of here.
Let's do it.
We're
Yeah,
America.
and the
Good
whole-
thing you
yeah,
landed
the-
here.
The aliens' backstories that they go from planet to planet, harvesting
We are evil.
cores or whatever.
Yeah,
but
they want to take the
yeah, it's
core
not
of the
that
planet, right? But every
Yeah.
planet has a molten core. You could just go to like Venus, and there's like no resistance
right. Go
whatsoever.
to any uninhabited planet.
hmm
Yeah, which there's
They just like
hundreds-
fighting. They're the Russell Crowe of aliens.
Yeah,
Well,
I just
here's
don't know if
another-
there's that much material for sequels and spin-offs and stuff.
The take of the aliens in the first one is interesting. I wouldn't say it's the strongest take in the world, but a conversation you and I have had a lot, Jacob, is the influence of aliens on stuff recently, like Tomorrow War and stuff and some other things.
Army
Female, a queen. Yes, it's exactly the same in Army of the Dead. The hive mind leadership thing, you could have gone a different way. That's all I would have said. You could have come up with a take that isn't the most generic thing ever for all these products, I would say.
Yeah.
Right.
And even the original, it's got like the green space laser. It's like very Death Star. Like it's borrowing stuff even in the original, right? Like it feels like the last ditch strike on the Death Star to even go in and try to blow up the alien craft. So it has some
Right.
It's a trench run.
Yeah, and then this Resurgence comes out just after The Force Awakens, and it's another space laser Death Star machine, and
Right.
it's
And also just the hive
Alien
mind.
Queen, hive mind.
Yeah, I
like
mean the
Borg.
hive mind thing, the Borg, Star Trek already did that in the 90s.
Sure.
And it's like, yeah, you can't top the Borg.
There's not an original thought. Even the way the Queen runs around, it's like Alien versus Predator when the Queen busts out of the ice. It's like I've seen all this. It really feels like an algorithm-made movie, and that's kind of a bummer. So shoulda, woulda,
Yeah,
coulda,
really, I
shouldn't have made
think,
it at all.
Yeah, I think if there was more sequels to this movie, they would really be on the level of like Alien Covenant and those movies. So it's like, not even worth it.
What I want to do is do Independence Days, and you pick a different country's Independence date, and then you do it. That country saves the day. If you really want the international market, let's pick a different country every time, and then
Yeah,
do
we'll
it
do
that way.
Australia's independence from the UK or whatever.
and there's an educational factor to it at that point.
yeah.
Because in the original 4th of July,
Teaching the world.
Yeah, it's like we opposed an oppressive force. You know, the British we didn't want to pay taxes. We said get out of here, right? So this time the aliens want to exterminate us. It's like get out of here, right? So I get it.
What if some aliens came down and they just wanted us to pay taxes to them?
Be great.
We would have to have representation
Then I'd
on the
go down
intergalactic,
swinging.
because the problem was no taxation without representation. They had to
That's
give us a
right.
seat on the council, but will not
right.
grant you the rank of master. You know.
We'll have to throw another Boston Tea Party for these aliens.
Yes, a space tea party. Well, if Jaden had done it, he would have
You
solved
guys are
space
taking lines
homelessness.
from my, from my 1998 version of Independence Day 2. The Boston Tea Party. This time it's personal.
Independent intergalactic.
Like they would
Tea
always
Party,
have like
yeah.
the dumb subtitles.
They should, huh?
Nah, I'm telling you, man. Like it would have been a big. It could have been just as big as
Yes.
the Mummy, if not bigger. I
Yes.
guess it's like the
I'm
more
telling you,
make.
Steven Seagal
Like-
stars in a couple made-for-TVs of these, Joe. That is where this
I
should
mean,
have
if
gone.
Jaws got 4 sequels, I'm sure this movie could get as many as Jaws.
And we know the aliens are weak to punching, so Seagal is a good choice to defend Earth.
Yes.
At least that era Seagal. That's not assaulting an officer. This is assaulting an officer.
Mike, under siege.
Yeah.
How dare you? All right, I could hit final thoughts already, guys. You know,
Yeah, let's
if
do
we're
it.
ready to roll on this one, I say let's blow up some monuments. Let's sadly our wife is gonna die because a light little beam fell on her legs or something. It looks like, but our dog's okay. Let's get out of here.
Was mommy sleeping?
Oh my god! Tell her the truth. Don't say.
She's gotta go be president of
commercial.
Yeah, that was.
She's gotta go be president on Battlestar Galactica. So
Yeah.
Look out! Coming through! I've got tone. Eagle 20. Box 2. Eagle 20. Box 2. It's jammed. It won't fire. Damn it. Do me a favor. Tell my children I love them very much. All right, you alien assholes. In the words of my generation, up yours!
Dad, what's he doing?
Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Come on.
Good luck, buddy.
Hello, boys! I'm back!
We're back. We're talking final thoughts. ID4, Independence Day.
An IDR.
That's right.
What is retcon?
Tacked on there just like it's tacked onto the
Yeah.
franchise.
we were talking about Bill Pullman having to break the heartbreaking news to his daughter that her mom's not going to make it, and then she's back in the sequel. Weird stuff. We talked about how we liked Jeff Goldblum getting to kind of reestablish his vows with his ex-wife, right? But then all of a sudden in the R, he's just like he's estranged from his father again, and no longer with his ex-wife. It's like his whole arc
yeah.
that was
Let's
completed
reset him.
is just disassembled, and it's like, okay, well. why
You
does-
gotta think that was 4 days, 20 years ago. It didn't
can't
mean
tie
much
Jeff
in the
Goldblum
long
down.
run, I
Kept the
guess.
ring on for 4
Yeah.
years, but whatever. We saved the world. Yeah, so I was really upset that they reset his entire character just because they couldn't get the actress back. But it's like the whole point of his thing was like he repaired the relationship with his dad and his ex-wife by being selfless, right? And then now we're back, and it's like all these people hate him again. It's like, damn.
right.
But anyhow, that's all for that. Last thoughts.
Can I
Independence
ask?
Day, yeah.
Can I ask a side opinion real quick? I think it's about 6 months after this film comes out. A different studio is so excited that they greenlit a Topps playing card adaptation for a movie called Mars Attacks. And you go, that's based on a trading card game? And you go, yes, it is. Where they were riding high and going, alien disaster movies are huge. Oh my God. Hey, wake up.
Right.
What did we pay that weird goth kid? How much money to make one of those? We are so fucking lucky. And it comes
Yeah.
out, and what people don't realize is it's a parody of those genre. He's essentially making Plan 9 from Outer Space, the movie. But which do you guys prefer?
Wow.
I think, well, Mars Attacks, it's a fun movie because it's not taking itself too seriously. It's got a great ensemble cast as well of just like really big actors in small parts that get blasted by the aliens sometimes. And
Michael J. Fox is that dog, Jacob. It's so scary.
yeah, yeah. But it's one of those situations where it's like two movies kind of come out around the same time. It's like an Ants and Bug Life situation, or like the
Yes.
the volcano movies or whatever that came out at the same
Dante's
time.
Peak, Volcano, Deep
Dante's
Impact,
Peak,
Armageddon.
Volcano.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everyone's
So I don't know,
sniping.
but Mars Attacks, it is a fun movie. I'll say that.
Yeah, they're definitely, two separate things. This is taking itself a little more seriously. It's very over the top with a lot of patriotism, which is fun, especially for a July 4th movie. Mars Attack, again, more of a genre, parody, And I like Mars Attack a lot, actually. I need to rewatch that, and I appreciate it more than something that they would have done in the 2000s, which would have been like Alien movie, and it just would have been like all pop culture references and totally
Right.
dated.
Oh,
That's it.
yeah, disaster movie.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it is just ahead of the Scary Movie curve, which I think the first one of those came out in '99, and this is '96, right?
Very close to it. So. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're two sides of the same coin. I like the coin.
I like the coin. We like the stock.
I like that.
All right. Well, Independence Day. I guess I'll jump in on my final thoughts. Basically, we've kind of said it. I was really enjoying watching the original. I really liked how the characters had complete arcs, more or less, even if it was very simple. And I was just disappointed by how all of that is essentially undone, despite the one or two cool things in Resurgence. It's not it. It doesn't need to exist, and it's probably one of the worst sequels I've ever seen, and I watched every Transformers movie.
Easily.
I would watch Revenge
Wow.
of the Fallen before this. I never want to think about Resurgence again, but that does not mean... Oh, go ahead.
Even with Jeff Goldblum being in it, it's not enough to save it.
Even with Jeff Goldblum being in it, because he'll come back for
Wow.
any sequel. He came back for The Lost World when no one else wanted to, all right? I mean...
True. And Mike, how about the last night, Quintessa? She's looking for a planet to suck all the energy out. She's a queen of a hive of Transformers. It's all the fucking same, right?
Yeah, all the same. And at the point of 2016, it's like the well is running dry anyway, and just
Yes.
it's taking something that was so special and like just watering it down again. It's Independence Day. It's like an American focus, USA, crack a Budweiser, have a hamburger, because 4th of July, right? And then now it's like the International Coalition, which is fine for like another franchise, but it's not Independence Day to me, right?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's like, again, the career of Roland Emmerich post ID4. He tried to, top himself, but he almost became a parody of himself with like 2012 being kind of just almost a parody of disaster movies at that point. 'Cause
Right.
It's just, so silly. But the only one I think was half decent maybe was The Day After Tomorrow. Maybe I need to rewatch that,
Jake
but I have some
Gyllenhaal,
fond
right?
memories of that.
10,000
Gyllenhaal,
BC.
Dennis
Do
Quaid.
you guys remember that one?
Yeah.
Yes, I do remember that one. But if there's anyone that we could maybe do an episode on in the future or something, I think A Day After Tomorrow was not half bad, and it had kind of a climate change message that was
Yes.
good.
Next
right?
Earth Day, Jacob. Pencil it in.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Well, that's something I appreciate about this.
But
Like, obviously Jeff Goldblum's character is like all about recycling, where he's he keeps saying like, "I'm trying to save the Earth here," and put your cans in your
Very
recycling.
90s.
Yep.
Yes. But really, this movie can't be topped, and it's a classic. Put it on in the background of the barbecue, just like we did. So great, we love America here on Normers Like Us.
America.
Way to sum it all up, Jacob. I feel I feel about the same, you know. I love this movie that I don't care very much about. It's a great movie that I watch more often than you'd think you would.
So often.
I wish we lived in the timeline where there were 10 million of them, but it is what it is. So that's it.
It is.
America.
Joe,
It
how
is what it
wasn't
is.
there a kick-ass Super Nintendo game that came out when this was, or whatever would have been the console? A couple years later, it would have been N64. Where was the ID4 game?
ID 64.
Well, you know, there were a ton of like
Mike.
micro machines and stuff like that. Like they had a bunch of like, you know, different plane model kits and things like that, and like the aliens, but no games that I know of.
No, and yeah, again, you would have thought, Joe. There's the merchandise possibilities of a Washington White House that I don't know explodes or something. There was so much, but really just kind of untapped for a movie that again was so popular.
Yeah.
I don't know. I said it's not really my favorite. The things I liked about the sequel, Joe hit on the head. I like the weird, let's let there be a future with cool technology. You don't see that a lot in sci-fi stuff, but the way that the first film almost treats it more like it is a disaster movie, like Volcano or Dante's Peak. And at the end, when they're going to the mothership, it's not like they're going in the wolf's den. It's almost like being lowered into the volcano to put in the device that will stop the eruption or something, you know? So to do characterization in the sequel of I am the queen who, millennia ago the coalition of Space Force banished us because, and you're like, okay, hold on, stop all of that. That's insane.
That sounds insane. Well, let me ask you
it
this,
is.
Colin.
Yeah.
Which movie is better to you? ID Independence Day Regurgitation,
Mm-hmm.
Resurgence, or The Tomorrow War starring Chris Pratt?
That's a great question because I think they're so indicative of like what we're saying of what is a modern movie. So something like Cobra Kai, a weird tangent here that we did an episode on and just absolutely love, works because you get the feeling that the people who did Cobra Kai were like, well, we can't make Karate Kid like global and like like the number one thing and like change it from what it is. We have to be so true to the fact that it is a dumb 80s movie. Let's make a dumb 80s show, and if it's popular, it's because we're going to put our heart into it.
Right.
When the people made Regurgitation, Jacob, they stripped it for parts of going like, and we could probably fit a Transformer in this movie, and post-cred scenes are a thing, so we could probably put a post-cred scene thing in and all this other stuff. And it's a formula. It's not Independence Day. I like the Tomorrow War because again, it's like just a thing a guy had an idea for. It's not a comic book. It's not 8 different YA book series. No, it's a weird idea like the first Independence Day was.
Right.
I'm on that team now. It makes sense to me that they are so weighted or valued next to each other in comparison. I just don't like modern movies. Like it's just like I just get nervous even just coming off of all these. I know we keep making the joke, Mike, of we did any Transformer, we can do anything now. But the nostalgia just hits so different than when we're having beers watching this thing at a barbecue. I think Joe hit the nail on the head. Some movies you're just not watching every scene of. In the same way that this played on TNT so much, halfway through I was like, where are the commercials? Like this thing is flying. Like I need some breaks in this motherfucker. You almost need modern movies to have that. Chris Pratt, again, I heard him on a podcast going like, it's a digital movie. I just think it would be so cool if you turned your phones off while you watched it and, you really gave yourself over to it.
Yeah, right.
And all that premeditation shit. Again, Joe went to the theater. I probably saw this at a sleepover or like a lock-in or at karate or fucking something. And I guarantee you every kid that was watching that afterwards was like, I want to be a jet pilot because I want to fly a jet into an alien spacecraft.
Right.
Kids now, that nobody, nephews and nieces of mine aren't going to be like the Tomorrow War. That's our movie. I watch that every Independence Day. It's just
I
that
hope I get
That's
drafted.
a shame.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
good that did come out on Amazon streaming, because I think if I saw that, if
Oh.
I paid money to see that in theaters, I
Ooh.
would, kind of upset.
Yeah,
But yeah, you're right. They just don't make movies like they used to.
they
Wow.
don't. They don't.
Not to be unoriginal in saying that, but
Well, we're losing
Yeah,
kind
it
of the.
sucks.
As much as we talk shit about Michael Bay's films, they are the ramblings of a crazed madman, the singular vision of a guy with bad taste come to life. Whereas
Yes.
regurgitation is like movie by committee. Like there's nothing to even grab onto. It's like,
right.
what if we gave Tommy Wiseau $200 million? Interesting, do it. I don't know
Yeah.
what would happen, but this is like
Great.
strictly by the numbers. Bottom line.
And it's
And it sucks.
indicative of so many movies now where it's like, oh, we can figure out how to make like a connected universe out of this. We can get spin-offs and all that. And it's like, things just don't focus on IP as much. So it's nice,
Yeah.
even if the Tomorrow Wars, even if it's not amazing, that something like that can get made still. So
Yeah,
I don't
thank
know.
God, they're not saying here's the Amazon Prime Tomorrow War, 5-episode series to tie it all up
Right.
afterwards. And I just want to say, Roland Emmerich, he didn't go to director jail because of this movie. He's just kind of being picky with his choices. 3 years later, 2019, he does Midway, that war movie that's about the Battle of Midway, starring Patrick Wilson. When I saw the trailer for that, I thought, oh, wow, you can make a war movie in a green screen shoebox for $20 now. That's impressive. So he's still pushing boundaries.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing with, I think, to the eras that these independent films are made. We're talking about international marketing, box office. The first movie, $75 million budget, but made like $800 million. And then the sequel is $165 million budget, but it only makes like $390 million. So you
You got to go bigger.
you almost
No.
triple the budget
yeah.
with none of the heart. What are you
And
doing
they're just
here?
almost just relying on nostalgia of the original, of like, oh, original Independence fans will want to see this.
I don't
Well,
think
not
so.
really. Fans of the original Independence Day will probably want to see original movies today.
Yeah, they'd rather see something new than just because the original's fine. It's going to be on the TV every 4th of July. I watch it every year. I don't need another one.
They want to see something where Will is being charismatic in a big movie again. And they just don't really make that kind of movie anymore.
Even the way casting Will Smith, like on the rise, it's like not that Liam Hemsworth isn't a star. It's like I'm sorry, Liam, but it's like you can't carry this. Like there's no charisma. I don't know if it's the writing or the acting, but it's like the entirety of the young cast just doesn't bring anything to it the way that Will Smith did, the way that him and Jeff Goldblum had a chemistry. Even the veteran cast, like
It's just a bad movie.
yeah.
It's just all around bad.
Yeah.
Bummer.
So that's the final word. Joe hit it on the head. It's just a bad movie. It really
All right,
is.
well, I'm gonna get these tentacles off my neck here, and while we do that, normies, we're gonna urge you, of course, to go to @normies_like_us and let us know your thoughts on Independence Day. Fire back and be like, no way, motherfucker! I shoot off fireworks. I drink a fitty of whiskey, and I fucking watch ID4 and I quote along to that speech at the end. That's fine. We absolutely want to hear you say that. Let us know. And of course, we got other stuff we're coming up. We've got a lot of new releases we're going to start covering. But when we do listener suggested stuff, that's how you're going to reach out and do that for us. And we forgot to plug last week. Check out the visual stuff, the YouTube page Jacob puts together for us. Especially listeners, if you want to get the subtle B plots that aren't on the actual audio episodes of me fighting against my mic stand to keep it up, that's all in the video podcast, baby. You're going to want to go to that YouTube Normies Like Us.
Definitely. Totally worth it. Happy Independence Day, normies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Thanks. We did it. And last note, we did watch this together at a barbecue, first time since pandemic.
Hooray!
Wow.
And
What a great
that was
time.
an experience in of itself. So we created our own ensemble cast to kind of rewatch this a little bit. So that was a good memory. So hope everyone out there listening had a great 4th of July. International listeners celebrate it anyway because remember America stopped the alien invasion and you owe us.
And we're number one.
And USA.
police.
Yeah.
That's right.
But thank you guys.
All right.
Hosts.
It's been your host, Colin the Alien. No peace.
Mike Spiner. I'm alive now, I guess.
Joe, can't remember anyone's name.
Pew pew.
And Jacob Goldblum.
It's
See you later, normies.
virus. It's a cold. It's a cold virus. It's a computer. Oh yes.
Uploading.
Oh yeah.
All right, remember, don't light up till the fat lady sings. I don't light it, I just bite it. Big Willie style. Take care, normies. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Na 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 na
Nah,
na.
nah.
Sha na 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 na.
Hit and stop.